blink, blink. Now, when I turn the key on, the immobilizer lights steadily for a while and then goes off completely. And then I can start the car, which proves that the key that I'm using is the right key for this car. And if it would have been a different key, I would not have been able to start the car. Simple as that. Now let's try to understand how it actually works. I removed the trim to have access. Now, this is the key inserted into the key cylinder, and this plastic piece, there's a connector to it right there, and this circle, there are tabs that should be released if you want to replace this piece. That's coil antenna, and what it does, it reads the code in your keys fob, and yeah, that's what it does. There are 4 wires there at the connector. It's a power and ground for the coil antenna, and 2 wires that go from the coil antenna to the instrument cluster. Now, to have access to the instrument cluster connector, just lower the steering wheel and just grab and pull this hood off, and there's a 1 screw on the top and 2 at the base, and the connector for the instrument cluster is right behind there. What's important to, if you remove the instrument cluster, keep it as it is, or this can be facing upwards or like this. Never, put it down, because I read somewhere that there is some grease, some liquid there that can spill out. Okay. Now this is the connector for the instrument cluster. I identified the 2 wires, the gray and the green, that come from the coil antenna, and there are also red and blue for the CAN network. I measured the resistance on these. First you have to disconnect actually the negative battery cable, and there I measured 60 ohms with the connector plugged in, which is good. Connector unplugged, and I measured 120 ohms, which proves that the resistor, one of them, there's 2 for the whole CAN network, they are in parallel, each 120 ohm, which, because they are in parallel, it's 60. But if you eliminate one, as I did by unplugging this connector, and as I said, one of the resistors is inside of the instrument cluster, that's why I read 120 20 with the connector unplugged. Now this guy here, it's a separate from the coil antenna. It is key reminder switch, and there are two wires. This guy, the wire goes to the body control module, I think pin 6R, and it is about the status as to if the key is inserted or not. So when the key is inserted into the key cylinder, you will read B plus voltage on the BCM pin 6R, and if the key is pulled out, it will read 0 volts. Now that's all this that I said is for the keyless entry only systems, you know. And see, that's the keyless entry only. If your car is equipped with the advanced keyless entry and start system, then it's a little bit different situation. Those two wires from the coil antenna do not go to the instrument cluster, but rather they go to the keyless control module. Also, if your car is the advanced keyless and start, the key reminder switch is not as separate as it is on the keyless entry. It is inside of the steering lock unit / component, and that's a separate component. It has its own connector, like 2 pins there. There's another power also. Anyways, there's also push start switch signal on there, and also the communication line to the keyless control module. So it is kind of a more complicated system. Look, there is the ignition switch connector. Ignition switch connector. When you look from underneath, I removed the trim. This is electric power steering here. This is the tilt lever that is used to tilt the steering column and the steering wheel on the top. Ignition switch again. The immobilizer light.